I hope I'm audible. Um, Firstly, I want to really thank you all for organizing this. Um, the the importance of us from all over the country and all over the world getting together, exchanging ideas, and sharing different perspectives as well as supporting each other in the efforts to identify the best strategy and tactics we need to utilize to support the people of Palestine is in itself an act of revolution and solidarity. So I want to be first in thanking you all for this. South Africa has, we feel, a historical debt to pay to Palestine and the world. South Africa received immeasurable support from people in Canada, in the United States, in the UK, in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, and people from Palestine as well, in our struggle for freedom. Indeed, when the governments of the West, when the United States and the UK and other governments betrayed the will of our majority and our right to have freedom in South Africa, it was the people who rose in protest. It was solidarity that was expressed from the streets that ultimately led to those governments shifting their views somewhat. Many might recall how people like Margaret Thatcher and her political party had actually said, hang Mandela, and they'd said they'd never meet Nelson Mandela. We recall how Ronald Reagan actively funded, supported apartheid. Many of us in South Africa feel confident that Mandela's being caught was a direct result of the CIA. So we have a long history of being supported by the peoples of the world and having had to fight the political and elite class in many of these Western countries. We received support, of course, from many governments who rebelled against the apartheid system as well. But the role of solidarity was the key component which we as South Africans after 1994 have a responsibility to give back to people like those of Palestine. There have been numerous of campaigns in South Africa for the Palestinian struggle, in support of the Palestinian struggle. Initially, 2 decades ago, when many of us started working in various organizations to support Palestinian solidarity, we had struggles. It took a lot to ensure that the issue was a domestic issue for us in South Africa. We found that a need to educate various communities around the situation in Palestine was necessary, and quite successfully, I think now the Palestinian issue is a domestic issue which has a huge amount of support from the people, not just the government, because there may be some countries that are supportive of Palestine, but the people can never be ignored. And our people in South Africa do hold our government to account. Recently, in one of the annual solidarity events that we participate in, dubbed Week for Palestine, we managed to see over 11 different political parties, including the first party, the party that got the most votes, the African National Congress, and the party that got the third and the fourth most votes in the country, all endorsed this campaign. And the campaign was clear that there would be no reversing on South Africa's ICJ position, and that the politicians before elections had to pledge that they would stand by Palestine in order to woo voters to support them. Collectively, the political parties that support Palestine in their policy documents, in their manifestos in South Africa, represent about 66% of those who voted. So collectively, those parties represent a vast majority of South Africans. And we've seen also other parties shifting their view from being Zionist pro-Israel to being fence-sitting because they were afraid of losing votes. And in particular, I think in the Western Cape, one of our provinces, there's a political party that has toned down a lot and has tried to muddy the waters, although not shifting. It's clearly a party we wouldn't trust. But politically, South Africa has seen a shift. Our campaigns many of them were political. We felt that we have a government in South Africa that could do more and should do more for the people of Palestine and their solidarity. One of our major campaigns was to lobby and to go to all the 9 different provinces in South Africa, to regional and provincial conferences of the governing party at the time, the ANC, to lobby and to get resolutions in support of a downgrade of diplomatic relations with Israel. We felt that our government, our leading political party, with its resolutions to provide solidarity, and many of those progressive resolutions lacked the bite of a party that actually controlled government. So we pushed hard and succeeded in getting a resolution in that conference that stated that the conference resolved to immediately and unconditionally downgrade diplomatic relations with Israel and turn our embassy into a liaison office. So we actually had to fight in that political space because we realized it was easier than fighting in the government space, because the government space was more infiltrated and more complex and more conservative. So some of our campaigns have been very political in nature. Then other campaigns that we've been involved in feed into the sort of global boycott tactic. During apartheid, the African National Congress and through extension the UDF had 4 pillars of the revolution. There was armed struggle, there was an internal underground, a popular mobilization, and then there was the international isolation of the apartheid regime. So we, as Palestine, recognize the same 4 pillars are the right of Palestinians, the right for them to resist, the right for them to operate internally underground as any oppressed peoples would do, and their right to mobilize domestically. Our role, of course, is to provide the support in the international isolation of the apartheid regime that is, of course, the yoke under which they are oppressed. Our campaigns have been targeting various companies, but also arts, culture, and sports. So there's been the Red Card Israel campaign that we've been participating in and active. We've had a variety of victories and we've had many challenges, as with most active solidarity organizations around the world. But one thing is clear, and that is a threat to the global movement for solidarity is something that was defined during our struggle by Oliver Tambo, the former president of the African National Congress, who was the ultimate diplomat. He went around the world working with governments to push for the isolation of apartheid South Africa and working with the peoples in their protests around the world to call for action against the regime. When he spoke about beware of the wedge driver, we find that sometimes, well-intended they may be, within the solidarity movement, there are challenges. And I think the most important thing to judge any organization or peoples on is the work they're doing. And we should never discourage anyone, regardless of their political affiliation, regardless of their analysis of the Palestinian question, regardless of a huge variety of factors. Our role as activists and organizations needs to be to do everything and to encourage everyone to do whatever they can, the way they deem they want to, in solidarity with the Palestinian people. And it's an important message I want to bring out there, because there's a lot of personalities, egos, different organizations, potentially agendas, but there's no point in succumbing to that and becoming disillusioned. Activists need to be inspired, and we need to inspire each other. We, at some point, for many, many years, organized an annual week, which we're now calling Week for Palestine, as Africa-Palestine's organizing. But before, it was an IAW type thing. And it was inspired by Canadian students. One of our young activists was inspired by Canadians at the university campus and came back here. And it was a really useful instrument at bringing the issue to various campuses and students around the country. So we really have the potential, the ability to work together around the world to inspire each other. And we need to try as best we can exchange ideas and move forward towards providing all the support we can to the people of Palestine. We're very clear. The people of Palestine must determine their own constitution. They must determine their own solutions. We will support them unconditionally. We in Africa of Palestine don't believe that there are conditions for the freedom of Palestinian people. The Palestinian people have a right to resist. They have a right to stand up and fight against the oppression. This right is protected under international law. So we do not judge. We support unconditionally because that is what the people of Palestine need. Will Palestinians make mistakes? Of course they will. Will South Africans and did South Africans make mistakes during our fight against apartheid South Africa? Many mistakes were made, but the international community never turned around and judged our struggle leaders. They knew that there was a need for unconditional support because an oppressed people needs to be given the respect and also given the trust by our international solidarity. And therefore, we give to the Palestinian people what we believe is part of a historic debt. And unconditionally, we continue to support Palestinians in each way and every way we can. Thank you so much.
Wow.